If you're an interior designer and you're getting consultations booked from your website, Instagram, referrals, and paid ads, but you're noticing that some people don't show up, some people show up but feel cold, and some people end the call by saying, "We're still looking at options," then the problem probably isn't your consultation itself. The problem is what happens between the booking and the call. And this is one of those most overlooked parts of that client journey. A lot of designers think that once the consultation's booked, that's it. The hard part is done. The lead is in the calendar. So now all you need to do is wait for the day of the call and then sell them on your service. But in reality, that gap between the booking and the consultation is where a lot of deals are either strengthened or lost. Because the moment someone books a consultation with you, they don't stop thinking. They don't freeze in time and wait patiently for your call. They keep researching, they keep comparing, they keep second guessing. They keep browsing Pinterest, saving inspiration, looking at other designers' portfolios, and asking themselves whether now is really the right time to invest. So if you don't have a system for what happens after they book, then you're leaving one of the most important parts of your sales process to chance. And that's exactly what this video is about. In this presentation, I'm going to break down a simple post-booking sequence that interior designers can use to increase show-up rate. So let's start with the core issue. Most interior designers have a lead generation process, but not a lead nurturing process after the inquiry comes in. Someone fills out the form, someone books a consultation, they receive a calendar invite, and then silence. That silence creates risk. Because when you leave too much empty space between the booking and the consultation, the client starts filling in the blanks on their own. They start thinking things like, did I choose the right designer? How much is this going to cost me? What if they're not my style? Should I speak to a few more people before deciding? Maybe I'm not fully ready yet. And those thoughts grow when there's no guidance. Now let's make this specific to interior design. Imagine someone is planning a kitchen renovation. They've probably been thinking about it for months. They've been collecting inspiration, watching renovation videos, looking at layouts, and imagining what their home could become. Then they find your work, like your style, and finally take the step of booking a consultation. At that point, they are interested. But interest is not the same thing as commitment. Once that consultation is booked, they're still very much in decision mode. They might still be reaching out to 2 or 3 other designers. They might be comparing portfolios. They might be asking their partner what they think. They might be worrying whether the budget is going to get out of control. They might be looking for signs that you're the person they can trust with major transformation in their home. So if all they get from you is a calendar confirmation, you're forcing the consultation call to do all the work. Instead of the call being a conversation about their goals and whether you're the right fit, it becomes a call where you're trying to build trust from scratch, explain your process from scratch, and handle doubts that could have been addressed before the meeting even began. That is why so many consultation calls feel harder than they should. It's not always because the lead is bad. Sometimes it's because the lead arrived at the call unprepared, unconvinced, and unnurtured. So, what's the alternative? The alternative is to build a post-booking nurture system. The goal of this system is simple. Build belief before the consultation happens. By the time your prospect joins the call, they should already have a clear sense of who you are, what your process looks like, what kind of results you create, what makes your approach different, and why moving forward with you would feel like a smart decision. When that happens, the energy of the call changes completely. Instead of trying to convince them to trust you, you're confirming the fit. Instead of spending the whole call explaining what you do, you're discussing how it applies to their space. Instead of trying to create urgency from zero, you're speaking to someone who already sees the value and wants clarity on next steps. That's the point of the entire sequence. You're not trying to pressure someone, you're trying to reduce uncertainty. Because your clients are not making a small purchase. They're considering bringing someone into their home, trusting them with their taste, their budget, their routine, and often a fairly emotional project. So your job is not just to show beautiful work. Your job is to make the clients feel safe, understood, and guided. This is why the post-booking sequence matters so much. It allows your brand to continue the conversation after the inquiry instead of going silent. And the system I'm going to walk through has 5 main parts: a post-booking page, a process walkthrough, social proof and trust building, engagement confirmation before the call, and a short nurture email sequence. So, let's go through each one. The first step happens immediately after the consultation is booked. Most people treat this as an admin step, but it's actually a sales step. Instead of sending someone to a blank confirmation page that just says your call is booked, send them to a page that welcomes them into your process. This page should do 3 things. First, it should reassure them that they made the right decision. Second, it should set expectations for what happens next. Third, it should prepare them to get more value from the consultation. A very simple way to do this is with a short welcome video. For example, as an interior designer, your video may say something like, "Thank you for booking your consultation. I'm really looking forward to learning more about your project. Before our call, it will be helpful for you to think about 3 things. Which rooms you want help with, your approximate investment range, and how you want the space to feel once it's complete. During the consultation, we'll talk through your goals, your current challenges, and what's the best next step might look like." That kind of messaging does a lot of the heavy lifting. It makes you sound organized, it makes the process feel intentional, and it helps the lead arrive at the call more prepared. Now below that video, you can also include supporting content like 2 or 3 testimonial videos, a few strong before and after transformations, a brief explanation of your service structure, maybe even a simple note about who your work is best suited for. This is especially useful for interior designers because people often need help visualizing what working with you would actually feel like. A generic booking page does not do that, but a guided page gives them confidence. And that confidence matters because right after someone books, they're often still emotionally undecided. They've taken a step, but they haven't fully committed internally yet. So your booking page should reinforce the decision, not just confirm it. The second part of the sequence is a process walkthrough video. This is one of the most practical and effective tools you can use. Why? Because one of the biggest reasons leads hesitate is confusion. A lot of clients don't actually know what an interior designer does beyond make spaces look nice. They don't understand what the design process includes, how long things take, what decisions happen at each stage, or why the investment is structured the way it is. And when people don't understand the process, they tend to delay their decision. So your job is to make the process visible. This does not need to be overproduced. Here's how our projects typically work. In stage 1, we focus on concept development. That's where we just define the style direction, mood, layout goals, and overall feel of the space. In stage 2, we move into design development, where we refine layouts, materials, furniture selections, lighting, finishes, and everything needed to make the vision practical. In stage 3, we move into implementation, where the design gets executed through sourcing, ordering, installation, and final styling. That one video can answer dozens of silent questions. It tells the client, this is a real process, this person knows how to lead me, this isn't random, I can see how we would move from idea to finished space. For an interior designer, this is especially important because clients are often overwhelmed before they even contact you. They know they want help, but they don't know how the journey works, so when you show them the path, you reduce friction. And that means the consultation doesn't have to be spent explaining basics. Instead, the consultation can focus on their home, their lifestyle, their goals, and whether your process fits what they need. Now let's talk about social proof. If process removes confusion, social proof removes doubt. People trust what other people have already validated. That's why testimonials, case studies, and visible results are so important in the post-booking sequence. The client is asking themselves, even if silently, can this person really do for me what I hope they can do? So your job is to answer that question before they ask it. For interior designers, this can look like before and after project images, short client reviews, a mini case study of a specific transformation, photos showing how a space felt before and after involvement, maybe even a project story explaining the challenge, approach, and result. For example, instead of simply saying we designed a beautiful kitchen, you could show a kitchen project and frame it like this. This client came to us feeling frustrated by a dark and disconnected kitchen that didn't work for their family life. We redesigned the layout to improve flow, introduced lighter materials to reflect more natural light, added better storage, and created a space that felt both elevated and practical. That is much more persuasive than just saying we do kitchens. Why? Because the client can now imagine themselves inside that story. And that's where belief starts growing. They begin to think, that sounds like my problem. That's what I want my space to feel like. They've done this before. Maybe they could do this for me too. That's the real power of social proof. It does not just prove that you're talented, it helps the client emotionally picture the outcome of hiring you. And in design, that emotional picture matters a lot, because people rarely buy a design based on logic alone. They buy the possibility of a better home, a better routine, a better feeling, a better identity in the space they live in. So use social proof to make that possibility feel real. Now this next step is small but powerful. Before the consultation, reach out and confirm engagement. This is more than just a reminder. A basic reminder says, don't forget the call. An engagement message says, I want to know how you're thinking before we speak. For example, instead of sending just confirming today's consultation, you might send, looking forward to our consultation tomorrow. Did you get a chance to look through the project examples I sent over? I'd love to know which one stood out to you most. That message is better for a few reasons. First, it increases the chance they actually review your content before the call. Second, it gets them mentally involved. Third, it gives you insight into what they're drawn to. If they reply saying they love the project with warm neutrals, layered textures, and soft modern styling, you already have a clue about the direction they resonate with. If they mention they were drawn to a project because of how functional it felt for family life, that tells you something different. So now the consultation starts from a more informed place. This step also improves show-up quality, because even when someone does attend the consultation, that doesn't always mean they are ready. But if they've actively engaged with your content beforehand, they're more likely to show up present, curious, and invested. That's what you want. Not just attendance, quality attendance. Now let's layer in email. If the consultation is booked several days out, or if someone has inquired but not yet fully committed, a short nurture sequence can be incredibly useful. A simple structure is 4 emails across 7 days. Email 1 comes immediately. The first email should thank them and set expectations. This is where you confirm that they received their inquiry, appreciate their interest, and explain what happens next. For an interior designer, that might sound like, "Thanks for booking your consultation. During our call, we'll talk about your space, your goals, your style and direction, and whether we're the right fit to work together." This removes uncertainty. It also makes your brand feel responsive and professional. Day 2. The second email should build trust. This is where you share testimonials, project outcomes, years of experience, or anything that reinforces credibility. For example, why clients choose us, followed by a few short proof points. Thoughtful, highly personalized design process, experience creating beautiful and functional family homes, trusted by clients who want both style and practicality. The third email should answer the question, why you? This is where you explain what makes your approach different. Maybe you focus on timeless interiors rather than fast trends. Maybe you're especially strong at small space planning. Maybe you combine calm aesthetics with everyday functionality. Maybe your process is particularly collaborative and client-led. This is important because clients are rarely comparing you against nothing. They're comparing you against other options, so you need to help them articulate why your approach is the right fit. The final email should create urgency. Not fake pressure, just movement. You can remind them that they've reached out because something in their current space is not working. The pain, frustration, or dissatisfaction that's caused them to inquire has not disappeared just because a week has passed. For example, it's been a week since you've reached out about your project. If you're still thinking through your next steps, this is a great time to move forward while the momentum is there. If appropriate, you can also mention limited availability, an upcoming booking window, or a bonus resource that encourages action. The key is to nudge, not push. So why does this entire system work so well? Because it aligns with how people actually make decisions. People do not make high-trust service decisions instantly. They move through stages. First, they become aware of a problem, then they explore possibilities, then they compare options, then they look for certainty, then they decide. Your post-booking sequence supports that journey. It sets expectations, it reduces confusion, it builds trust. It creates familiarity. It gives the client enough confidence to move forward. For interior designers specifically, this matters because design is both practical and emotional. Your clients are not just hiring someone to choose cushions and paint colors, they are hiring someone to shape the way they live in their home. That means your sales process needs to do more than sound polish. It needs to feel reassuring. And when your post-booking system does that well, the consultation becomes easier because the client is no longer trying to figure out whether they trust you. They're trying to figure out how to start. That's a very different conversation. So if you're an interior designer generating leads online and you want more people to show up to consultations, feel warmer when they do, and feel more ready to move forward, then your post-booking sequence is something worth fixing immediately. Because even small improvements here can have a massive impact. A slightly higher show-up rate means more quality conversations. A slightly better prepared lead means a stronger consultation. A slightly higher close rate means more signed projects from the same number of inquiries. And that's one of the smartest ways to grow. Not always by chasing more leads, but by improving what happens with the leads you already have. So if you found this helpful and you want more content around lead generation, client conversion, content strategy, and marketing specifically for interior designers, subscribe to the channel. And if you're building this out in your business, start simple. You do not need a huge automation system on day one. Start with a better booking page, a short process video, 2 or 3 pieces of social proof, and 1 or 2 strong follow-up emails. That alone will put you ahead of most designers who go silent after the booking. And once you build the full system, your consultations will feel less like sales calls and more like natural next steps with the right clients. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.